Um, it is interesting in that each of our three disciplines has a radically different story. Although each one of them is part of the Canadian equestrian team, there's a different culture to each discipline, a different history, and a different dynamic. Eventing's has been, in my view, has been a very inspiring story of growth and building. About 4 years ago, Eventing made a decision that what it had been doing previously wasn't working, and they were going to start off. They're going to wipe the slate clean, start off with a high performance program that went from beginning to end. They were going to start significantly with a great deal of young talent and to build them into champions, and that was a significant leap of faith. And it took a lot of money that, frankly, they did not have, but fortunately were able to raise, and that we were able to help them raise through funders in the intervening years. But first, I credit the our eventing team for starting off and having the courage to take that leap of faith. The second part is that they had an abundance of courage, because, as is often the case when you're starting something new, you rarely see results right away, and indeed costs become apparent before benefits become apparent. I would have to say that in 2008 at the Olympics in China, our eventing team did not perform to its capacity, and to their credit, they recognized that. They didn't make excuses. They were the first to say that they had underperformed, but critically, they did not lose faith in the need to forge ahead with the plan that they had set. I think others would have taken that setback as indication that perhaps we need to go back to the way we used to do things because we're now doing worse than we did before. But they recognize that sometimes when you're going through hell, you just have to keep going. And we saw the results of that at the World Equestrian Games with the medal, at the Pan American Games with another medal. I'm very proud of what our eventing team has achieved, because they were the authors of their success. There's an element of luck for any athlete. I'd be the first to admit that. And in fact, I would say in my own sporting career, I on the balance sheet, I would say it was more luck than talent. But our eventers really can take credit for the successes that they have. It wasn't luck. It wasn't happenstance. It was determination. It was grit, and they have deserved every success that they have achieved. I have high hopes for them in London. I have very high hopes. I expect us to be on the podium. I don't want to put a lot of pressure on them, but I expect them to be looking downwards at the other team who's on the podium. There's not a moment's doubt in my mind that we have a gold medal potential eventing team. As I said, you never know. Life is a lottery, and horses add to the chaos of that. Things would have to go their way, but the eventing team has had a way of making their luck rather than relying upon the gods for luck. I believe they'll do so again in London. One of the real strengths of our eventers are that they succeed and they fail as a team. They rejoice in one another's successes as much as if it had been their successes. They grieve for one another's misfortunes as much as if it had been their own misfortunes. Candidly, the kind of petty jealousies and intra-team rivalries that tend to haunt other disciplines, other sports, other countries is absent from our eventers, and they have succeeded as a team. There are some people who have done better than others, some individuals who have done better than others, as is to be expected, but their teammates have jumped for joy at least as high as they have when they have succeeded, and that's heartening to see. At the end of the day, one of the unique aspects of equestrian sport is that ours is meant to be a sport of partnership. It's a partnership between horse and rider, and it's a partnership between one person who can speak for himself, who holds the reins, and one athlete who cannot speak for himself. As a result, when it's practiced well, I think it is the most noble of sports, because it relies upon the charity, the wisdom, and the grace of the rider to put the interest of the horse ahead of his own. Those aren't sentiments that are universally seen. It would be absurd to expect every person in a sport as large as ours to always be noble and self-sacrificing. But I would say we do see it more often in equestrianism than we see it in other sports. And when we do see it, as I think we have seen it in eventing, it's a joy to behold.